No, it didn't happen that way in this place at all.
I think basically also is because we don't have those numbers
Mm,
to make one scary,
yes.
and then because again maybe quite a number of people haven't really had close contact with anyone who's
Who's
died from it,
outside?
or I don't
Yes,
know who's had
yes.
it, so it's like what are they talking about?
Mm,
But again we have to be glad that somehow something seems to be working for us here,
mm.
and even the medical personnel cannot decode
They
it.
can't.
It could be something in our genetics, in our DNA, or peradventure our immunity from taking all kinds of unhealthy stuff.
Okay. All right, let's go straight into the dailies right now. The Punch has the headlines. It says federal government to persecute 634 child labor offenders. And Lagos closes Maryland service lane for 6 weeks. I'm going to give you more details about that. Also, Lagos warns religious leaders against second COVID-19 wave. And petrol price will increase when oil rate goes up. Timmy Praise Silva has this to say on the Punch paper. 1.4 million teachers inadequate for 42 million children. This is coming in from the federal government. And federal government adopts digital assessment of civil servants. The Guardian paper has the headline, Cost of Living at Crisis Point. All right. And government flout petrol price. Nigeria Labour Congress deny endorsing hike. All right. The Vice President Emil Shibadu seeks probe of NSAS violence. And President Buhari applauds the Nigerian students as they conquer at the global ICT contest. The This Day paper has this headline. It says Nigerian Labour Congress demand emergency in oil downstream sector. CBN, Nigeria's Deposit Insurance Corporation, to establish funds to guarantee depositors' fund safety. And also CBN's Poverty Alleviation COVID-19 Intervention Program underreported, said civil society organization. And NJC decries low budgetary allocation to judiciary. The Nation has the headline, Nigeria 69 other countries get 99 billion US dollar international monetary fund cash. And also Timipre Silva links petrol price increase to COVID-19 vaccine discovery. And Senate to seek audit of NNPC's Port Authority, Nigeria's Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. The pen pushing has the rest of the headlines. Transporters drag Nigeria's police to court over infractions of fundamental human rights. And 699 core members report to Oyo State for the 2020 Batch B orientation course. My friend is currently in camp and he was telling me of if you remove your nose mask and they catch you, you'll be punished.
Well, I think that's needful.
That is needful, and I'd like the fact that no precautions are being taken, but life has to go on. All right, let's go straight into the dailies this morning. I think I'd like us to start with education. This morning, 1.4 million teachers inadequate for 42 million pupils. This is coming in from the federal government, and the federal government on Monday expressed concerns over the inadequacy of qualified teachers in the country, saying that 1.4 million teachers in the system were not enough for the 42 million pupils in basic school. The government called on states to engage successful candidates who will partake in the federal teachers scheme examination. The executive secretary of the Universal Basic Education, that Dr. Hamid Abuboye, stated this in Abuja after monitoring the conduct of the FTS exam, which at a computer-based center of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board in Buwari. All right. It also states here that although a total of 14,729 candidates have taken the FTS exam, only 3,700 per 100 states would be selected because of the slim budget. Now we're still dealing with a lot with regards to our teachers. There's still conversation around slim budget. Let's not forget that the president made some very generous promise to teachers with regards to pay package and special bonuses. And 1.4 million teachers to 42 million pupils. We I'm not even talking about the quality of the teachers, even among the 1.4 million teachers that we have. But how do you react to the headline of this particular headline of understanding the fact that we still have a large chunk of children who are out of school? And the coronavirus has definitely affected more. We Before the pandemic, the stats used to say 13 million, But right now, I don't even know what the figures would be of how many children that are out of school.
We've always had this problem in Nigeria, and one thing I always say when we come to discourses like this is that, it's not even limited to the education sector, if you know what I'm talking about. We talk about the fact that we don't have enough policemen. We talk about the fact that we don't have enough health workers, to fit the teeming population that we have. So it's not something new, even though it's something troublesome, and it's something that we really need to look at. I remember many years ago, I was doing a research in Yola, and it got me into the hospitals. But in the midst of it, I had to interview somebody who was working in an NGO, a medical doctor, and he said to me he can never practice because they had an average of one doctor to about 700 people. And the guys, was it 1 to 700, or he told me that, okay, I think he told me that on a daily basis you could have to see up to that number of people. And I said, is it possible? He said, that's exactly why I'm not practicing. So 1.4 million to 42 million students. The question is, can you do the math? So how many children would one person need to give attention to? But unfortunately, even the 1.4 million that we're talking about, what's the quality of those people? So if you were even to refine it, bring about quality, well, I'm not sure you will have up to a third of that number. So it's a crisis situation. Nigeria does not, face these things. We're a nation that we start something and then we leave it forever. No continuity, no follow-up, no trainings, no recruitment. We should have come to a point where on a yearly basis, we have an idea of the number of students that the nation will be churning out in terms of primary education, secondary education, and tertiary education, and then begin to ensure that we recruit teachers, lecturers to meet that number. But nobody does any research of anything. We don't even have data. This thing that you are even talking about, how did they come about the numbers?
That's another question.
That's another question. So if you don't have data, what are you going to plan with? And then, of course, in Nigeria, we don't plan at all. We don't plan. And then, when you begin to hear the things that are said by our leaders, you begin to wonder if they have an idea at all.
But then I want to not make a case I don't want to make an excuse for our leaders for the things that they have not done. But when we look at why there are ministries, departments, agencies, these are supposed to be their primary functions in ensuring that they are providing this data for the government, because the government every year is making a budget on education. The question is, what is the Teachers Council of Nigeria doing?
What do they use to generate that data?
We can start from somewhere. Take, for example, there are registers in every school. What is the Teachers Council doing? What is the Education Board doing right now in ensuring that, okay, they are collecting enough data to ensure that these are the number of students that are in school, these are the number of students that have stopped being in school, and that way, this is why this budget is inadequate. Every year, we are always saying the educational budget is not enough.
Nothing is enough to done.
The truth is, do we have enough data to back the reasons why this budget is not enough?
We look, yes, data is on the one hand. The truth of the matter is, even if we had the adequate data in Nigeria, the budget still would not be enough, because the government just doesn't have the money to go around every sector of the of the nation, of the economy, and all whatnot. So that's on one hand. Now, also, you would find out that the teaching profession over the years has had little or no value. Okay, now when we were growing up, we had professional teachers. We had teachers who came into the profession because they had a calling, because they wanted to do it, because they loved it. It was their choice. Today, that's not what you see. You'll find out that anybody going into school to study education is probably because that's the last resort. He or she has not been able to gain admission into other courses, and it's like, oh, education is always looking for people, because you don't have too many people wanting to study the course. And so that's on the one hand. On the other hand is that when they come out of school,
Okay.
Now, it's not limited to those who studied education. People who studied other, disciplines.
Yes.
When they come out of school and they've been searching for a job for years and they don't find, and then they suddenly have an opportunity to teach, they'll go for it. Not because that is what they want to do, but because that's the last option. Now, I have a nephew who just finished NYSC. And I was talking to his dad, who happens to be my brother. Oh, what's this boy doing now? What are we going to do about getting a job? And he said, he's teaching somewhere in a school near the house for now. You understand what I'm talking about? That is not what he wants to do. Unfortunately, he did study education, but that's not what he wants to do because I've had conversations with him. You get, so those are the issues. What incentive do we have for people to study education? What, how much are they paid? How much? And they're one of the sets of people within the Nigerian economy that get owed the most. Go and check in all the states. It's the teachers that are usually not paid. And even when they are paid, how much are they paid? So it's not something that is, lucrative. It's not something that is exciting. It's not, and beyond that, also, you want to look at public schools in this situation that we're talking about, and you want to even look at the teachers themselves. What security for them, because we find a situation whereby you have all kinds of children in schools in Nigeria. I mean, some years back, I heard, of a very, very terrible experience. Around my parents' home, there was, a school where students of that school, secondary school, raped their teacher in broad daylight, gang raped her, and some of them were holding guns to her head while the act was going on. So, it's a whole load of stuff that we need to look at. It's a complete overhaul we need. And like I've always told you, Dan, it's not just in the education sector. Nigeria itself needs a complete overhaul.
All right. Thank you. 17 minutes past 8. This is Women Radio 91.7. Do well to be part of this conversation. Send us a text or a WhatsApp message on 070-317-56537. 070-317-56537 is the number to be part of this conversation. I want to quickly give us the update on the Lagos closing of the Maryland service lane for 6 weeks. The Lagos state government closure of the service lane inbound Maryland from the end of Gani Farimi Park to the end of the second pedestrian bridge Ojota for 6 weeks, starting from today, November 17th, 2020. The statement was actually signed by the State Commissioner for Transportation on Monday, stating that the partial closure is to allow the contractors handling the stretch of the project from Ojota to Maryland to continue with the next phase of the construction, which includes the reconstruction of the Ikorodu Road. As a result, the new arrangement, motorists coming from Ikeja axis are advised to use 7-Up around through Billing Way to link Oregun Kudirat Abiola Way, inbound Ikorodu Road by Ojota bus stop. Also, that's a traffic inward Ojota bus stop to Maryland from the Lagos Expressway could either proceed to Oroshoki Bagada or descend the loop by Abiola Garden and connect to Ikorodu Road. That's inbound K2. So this is the new alternative, and it's going to be like this for the next 6 weeks. Approximately, if we do 6 weeks properly, that's till the end of the year. That's what 6 weeks is going to be.
Our leaders are extremely unfeeling and unfair to us. As you're saying it now, my head is thinking in so many directions. My office is in Yaba. I have, some trainings to attend tomorrow and on Thursday. And already my brain is working. How the heck am I going to get there? Because why would they do all of these roads at the same time? No, I mean, the third mainland bridge is not accessible in the real sense of the word. And now the Ikorodu Road that we have been managing, even without this new set of works that they want to do, it's a terrible thing.
Yaba inclusive.
It's a terrible thing going, the traffic and all of that. Now you are bringing that. And then you are bringing it at a time when influx into Lagos is so large. Christmas is coming, even though it doesn't look like it, but I can assure you there's a greater influx into Lagos in this season. Why are they so unfair to us? The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway you don't even understand what they're doing. You don't. They cut it here, they go forward, they move backward. It's crazy. What exactly is going on?
Well, I really don't have the right answers to that question, but I think the best I can say is I feel like they want to finish a lot of projects before the end of the year, which I felt they should have been doing all of this when the pandemic was on.
Of course.
That was a great time for them to have figured out what exactly they wanted to do with this particular route. But let's go straight into these other headlines. 20 minutes past 8. This is the newspaper review on Women Radio 91.7. Okay, the next headline we'll be taking this morning is with regards to child labor offenders. Federal government prosecutes 634 child labor offenders. And the federal government says it will prosecute 634 child labor offenders for the crime they allegedly committed between 2018 and 2019. The Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, disclosed this during a workshop for media practitioners on child labor reporting and presentation of the National Advocacy Strategy on the elimination of child labor in Abuja. Now, according to a statement on Monday by the ministry spokesman, Charles Akpa, the minister said that the federal government, Federal Ministry of Labor and Employment, as the coordinating ministry for the National Committee on Child Labor, had since 2013 achieved a lot. Underline the word achieved a lot. This include, among others, the development of the National Policy on Child Labor, the National Action Plan on the Elimination of Child Labor, and the development and validation of the National Reporting Template on Child Labor. The statement titled "Federal Government Set to Prosecute 634 Child Labor Offenders" was what he said. The represented by the Director Inspector Department of Ministry, also noted that the state labor reported 5,401 and 3,934 child labor infractions in 2018 and 2019, respectively. Now, I have issues with the report because I feel like there are a lot of underreporting of this particular issue. When we talk about child labor in the country, I think religious bodies have contributed immensely to why child labor has progressed. We see cases of where people are, there is intra child trafficking going on, where somebody's bringing a particular child from the village to work for somebody in the city, which is Lagos, they refer to as city. And this is highly done in a lot of faith-based organizations around the country, which is where I think, because I see these things happening. You go to certain places of worship and then you see the kids who are taking care of kids, and it worries me. This is one aspect. You go to local canteens. These are cases that are not reported. Some of them are bringing these kids to Lagos, telling them, "Oh, we're going to take care of your child," and that ends up not being the case.
I hear you, Dan. First and foremost, it's something new to me when you talk about it being prevalent in faith-based organizations, especially churches. I'm not sure that I've really, noticed that or maybe taken note of that to the extent that you're talking about. But yes, it's possible. First and foremost, who is a child laborer? From what age to what age? Will that be under the age of 18? Because under the age of 18 is still considered to be a minor. Okay, so yeah, maybe you have people who have 16-year-olds and all of that. But it's a bit tough to actually get this thing out of out of this, to get us out of this situation. But first and foremost, you want to profile the people who release their children for child labor. It's a question of poverty. Okay, it's a question of poverty. And when you have a question of poverty, even when the government is trying to control this thing, the people who are willing to give away their children for some form of labor they are not going to appreciate what the government is saying, because for them, it's one less mouth to feed and possibly, some opportunity for that mouth to be fed somewhere else at the same time, maybe earning, some little wages that they would use to, cater to the rest of the people. So it's a whole load of stuff. Population control needs to come in. People need to be taught, to do birth control so that you don't have more children than you are able to cater for. But that's on one side of it.
Yeah.
Child labor, yes, is something that should be discouraged. It's something that should be eradicated, especially because of the, the way Nigerian has grown into all kinds of evil. Child labor, as we call it, is something that had always been with us from time immemorial. You understand? But the way and manner in which it was practiced is quite different. And I'll give you an example. I grew up with a lady who was brought to my mom by her father. She was supposed to be a maid. She was 7 years old and I was 6. And the father said to my mother, "Her life and her death, I dash you everything." And my mom said, "No, I don't cater to dead people. I cater to living people. She's going to be alive." But here's the deal. That woman, she's just a year older than me. By the time she left my house, okay, and had gone into her own life and all of that, people kept on asking my mom, "Oh, what about that your daughter?" And when my mom would say, "Oh, she's gone to," they'll say, "Gone where?" "She's not my child." And people never believed it. Everything that I had, she had, including gold, as in real solid 18-karat gold. I had a sister, biological sister. So my mom would always say, "I have 3 daughters." So whenever she was getting gold done, she would do for the 3 of us. She was a child just as much as I was. I'll tell you something. The day my mom was laying the foundation of her house, she took nothing, not me. And I was in the house. You understand what I'm talking about? We wore the same clothes, the same shoes, everything for Christmas, New Year. What if she was a child? She was taken to church, she was baptized, she was given a baptismal name. She was a child. Up till today, she's a sister to me. She lives in Abeokuta. I dare not go to her. The moment I get in Roti, Motideo, you understand? And she's all over the place. You can't separate us. So now, that was a gain to her family. Yes. She was sent to school. She wasn't very good at schooling, but my mom made sure she pushed her up to a certain level. And then she began a trade with my mom. For every item she sold, she had a commission. Even though she was living in my house as a child. So that, for that kind of situation, that was a help for that family. Do you understand? Now, but what do we see here now? We see people who are wicked. We see people who bring in a child. Even when you bring in adults, there's a way you treat people as human beings. So I think basically that's a major thing. Yes. It's a major thing. But the government cannot, remove his own duty off, because the problem is that some people even take these children and use them to do rituals. We've had all kinds of things. Some people use them as baby making factories for sale. So all kinds of things come up. So yes, government should begin to prosecute. I'm glad they want to prosecute people, but at the same time, government needs to do a lot of advocacy. Yes. It needs to go ahead and begin to let people know that it is a crime, and if you are caught, you're going to be prosecuted and you stand the risk of being jailed. Let people know, let it bombard our airwaves, that anybody below 18 years of age, you cannot employ to work as a laborer. And then again, on the other side, I think people also should be how do I say it now? Should be sensitized onto the fact that these are human beings like yourself. When you see someone coming like that, it's because they don't have the privileges that you have. And if you have those privileges, why can't you extend a hand of love to them? And before I round up, I'm going to tell you another real life situation. I had this friend of mine, a pastor. As an ordained pastor in one of the biggest churches in Lagos. And then one day she comes to me and says, "Look, I'm traveling to the US and I want to, I can't leave my house help to stay at home. So I want her to come and stay with you until I return." She was going to be gone for about 6 weeks. And I said, "Oh, that's not a problem at all." But when she left, I told my husband, I said, wow. I said, "There's going to be trouble." He said, "What happened?" I said, "If this girl stays in my house for 2 weeks, she won't go back there." And he was like, I said, "I know my people. I know the way people treat their mates, and I know the way I treat mates. You would never even hear me call somebody a mate. So this girl was 13. You understand? She came into my house. I had a daughter that was just slightly younger than her. It was fun for her. They would play together. I don't think I sent her any work to do. I would get into the kitchen, cool, and by the time she spent less than 2 weeks, she came to me and knelt down and said, "Ma, I want to continue living with you." And so it wasn't a shock to me because I knew she was going to find a marked difference. And I wasn't doing it because I wanted to prove a point. That's my life. You understand what I'm saying, Dan? And so I now I said, "I'm sorry, it can't be done. This is my friend, you came through her." And the girl began to weep. But you know what? She told me something. She said, "When my Oga comes, I'm going to leave." She said, "If I can't stay with you, I'm not going to stay there." The day after my friend returned from the US, that girl left. But some months down the line, she came back to my house. My daughter was reminding me recently.
Yeah.
She came back to my house. And my daughter apparently had been teaching her to write and read, and it was all. We need to sensitize people.
Definitely, there needs to be more sensitization on this, because I also look at it from the angle of the fact that there needs to be more empathy than even the law itself with regards to this, and that is also very important. 28 minutes to 9. This is still the newspaper on Women Radio 91.7, and of course we're still taking your message. We're going to take some of your messages right now. 070-317-56537 is the number to send in your text and your WhatsApp message to be part of the conversation this morning. All right, we take the words of the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo on the Vanguard newspaper. He says, "We build trust with citizens," and that is on the Vanguard newspaper. Actually, the Vanguard newspaper. The federal government says that there is need to review the trust between the government and the governed in the aftermath of the EndSARS protest. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo said this during the reviewed Lagos Dialogue and Partnership event organized by the Lagos State government to inaugurate the 8-member board of trustees of reviewed Lagos Trust Fund held at Ikeja. Osinbajo said that there was need for government at all levels to build the lost confidence with the people so as to forestall a repeat of destruction witnessed in the country in the aftermath of EndSARS protest. He said that never should this kind of what happened in Lagos be allowed to repeat itself. I think one basic question I like to ask is, does this administration still have what it takes to rebuild the trust in the people?
First and foremost, it's a shame that it took EndSARS and the aftermath of it for the government to realize that the people don't trust them. They don't know. The government is extremely, far away from the people. It's as if they don't live in the same space as the rest of us do. And then one thing that always, baffles me is the fact that before they got into power, even though they might have been, somehow endowed more than the rest of us, but they lived in this environment. They knew the things that were going on. They read the papers. They listened to the news. They had conversations with people around them. They complained. And then you get there and behave as if, oh, now we're living in heaven. It's a shame on them. So I first of all want to say that. Because this issue of trust is not something that we just lost now as a nation. From I don't know how many years ago, people have lost confidence in any government in Nigeria because government comes, government goes. They keep making promises that they have never fulfilled. And you need to look at it from this way. Every government that comes to campaign, aspiring aspiring, what do you call them now, leaders who come to campaign, they've been campaigning for the same thing since the days of Awolowo. We will give you lights, we will give you water, we will give you roads, we will give you house. It has not left those 4 things. Now the question is, which one of them do we have? Which one of them do we have? Nothing. So they can't get the trust of the people except they begin to perform.
Okay.
They are the ones who messed up. They are the ones who've gotten people to this point. And so, before you can even think of rebuilding the nation goes beyond physical infrastructure.
Okay.
That's what they need to know.
Mm.
There's a Yoruba proverb that says, "The child you don't train is the one that will sell the house that you build." You understand?
Okay.
And if you want to really give an interpretation, that it actually says, "The child you don't build will sell the house that you build." And so we had all this infrastructure that were destroyed.
Yes.
Who destroyed them? So the thing that we need to face first and foremost is to rebuild the people in terms of, let us begin to have a social system in this nation.
Okay.
Let's begin to pay concentration on all of these things. When the people, and we know it's been said, 70% of our population are youths.
Yes.
That age is the age where you have a lot of, strength, a lot of agitation, a lot of, desire to explore. It's a time when you do many things without thinking first. Do you understand what I'm talking about? You're just zealous, you're just bubbling with energy, the need to do something.
Okay.
Now, when you don't harness that strength into something, constructive, this is the kind of problem you are going to have.
What do you think of? There's a headline yesterday. I'm trying to remember the lawyer who made this statement. The Sun actually who made this comment. It was all over the papers yesterday with regards to we need a new constitution. That the 1999 constitution, even as amended, cannot.
Yeah, I read
that mindset.
Well, for me, not necessarily, because you cannot tell me that the entire 1999 constitution,
yes,
the whole of its content is bad. No, I don't agree with that. There are portions of it, that need to be expunged, that need to be, amended, and whatever you need to do to it. But the question I always ask people is that, you see, the truth of the matter, that is that, take that 1999 constitution, as much as it has been criticized, if we follow just 40% of it, we won't be where we are. The ones that are good, how much of it do we implement? So the issue, about us in Nigeria is not just about making laws. We have laws in this country, several laws. The question is, how many of those laws do we obey? How many of them are implemented? And when we disobey those laws, are there sanctions? No. And because there are no sanctions, I will continue to do what I like, when I like, how I like it.
There are definitely sanctions, but then we have not seen like full enforcement of the law.
So that's what I'm saying now. No enforcement of sanctions. We have a situation in Nigeria, that can be likened to the animal farm of George Orwell. All animals are equal. Some are more equal than the others. So if I commit a crime and somebody up there commits the same crime, he gets away, I go to serve a jail term. Where's the equity in that? Okay, so the reaction of the youth that you see is the frustrations that has been bottled up over the years, yes, a nation that has not allowed them to fulfill their full potential. A nation that is just crippling. A nation, look, daily you get frustrated by this country. Absolutely frustrated. We just looked at one aspect of government, of our society. Yes. SARS, that the agitation was, can you imagine other places?
The issues
that are there. My brother lives in the US, and he sent, he forwarded something to me. Somebody had gone to do a research on, lecturers, university, and all of that. And at least about 12 persons that, that were interviewed talked about what they had to give to their lecturers just to get their project defended.
There's a lot of stories around that, but we're going to be talking about that on Thursday on our big question. We're going to be looking at educational sector on Thursday.
So what are you talking about?
Let's talk about the economy for a moment. There is a conversation around the new hike in fuel price and the price of food, the price of dollars, which is really annoying. The skyrocketing of food prices, dollar shortage, drives up inflation to 14.2%. Skyrocketing of food prices and the scarcity of foreign exchange has emerged as the main driver for soaring inflation, and analysts see the additional factor of fuel price and electricity tariff increase pushing for a more steeper rise in the months ahead. December is around the corner, and the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday reported headline that inflation has hit 14.2% at the end of the month, up to 500 basic points from 13.7% recorded in the previous month, which was September, while also beating consensus of forecast of 14.1. So have you been to the market lately or been to a grocery store lately?
The one that is most popular and trending is the cost of onions. Or the price of onions.
The price of onions.
Dan, and this is why I count myself to be privileged. A privilege in the sense that I got to a point where I no longer check. I just ask God to give me the grace to live one day at a time. Okay, so I need to buy this stuff now. The money is available. I buy it and get away. I don't care what, I'm not bugging my head with what's going to happen tomorrow. Otherwise, you die before your time in this country. First and foremost, they talk about 14% inflation. That's theoretical. How do you measure inflation? Well, I did economics up to A levels. All of those things are theory that we read in textbooks. The real, when we want to, actually check the true inflation rate in Nigeria, if it's not up to 500%.
There was another report sometimes at the beginning of the week with regards to about 200% increase in the price of food items. Even some went up as much as totally as 300%.
If I buy this thing for 100 naira today, and tomorrow I go there and they say to me it's no longer 100 naira, it's now 400 naira. What do I have? I have a 300% increase. So how are you telling me that inflation is 14%? From where to where? So that's there. You see, there are some facts that we need to also face. Depression is all over the world now.
Yes.
Economic depression for so many reasons. Even before COVID-19, things had been really going, tough. And now COVID-19 comes and does what it, what it would do. And of course, even though we don't have high numbers of that in Nigeria, we live in a global village and we're affected, by what happens to the rest of the world. So yes, Nigeria does not have money. Now, when we say Nigeria does not, people want to tear you up. Yet they are spending, they are stealing even the ones even that which is not enough. The price of oil, which is the one thing that we base everything on, has been falling and falling. You understand what I'm talking about? Nigeria has no other thing that it puts, that it bases its economy on, seriously. It's just this oil, because we have become a very lazy nation. We don't want to farm, we don't want to, diversify into other things.
But that is happening one way or the other. There are talks around agriculture, funds for agriculture. What's
the output now? Because if we've been talking about the strides that have been achieved in the place of agriculture, and I don't doubt it. But the question is, what has been the output so far? There's so many things that are wrong. Now you increase the price of oil. And my own is that they can't kill all of us. Now that's talking from the point of the citizenry. But when I talk from the point of the government itself is kind of pushed to the wall. They don't have anywhere else to get money from. I begin to hear all kinds of taxes and I begin to laugh. Okay, because they just keep looking for how do we, and of course it comes back to the people. It comes back to the people. So that's unfortunate.
Let's take some of your messages right now. 070-317-56537 is the number to send in your text and your WhatsApp message to be part of the conversation here this morning. But taking this off from Real One in Mile 12. Real One says this morning, he says, on the issue of child labor, I appreciate how Sunbo was able to take the issue from both angles. I think we should recognize the peculiarities of our country and have an agency that takes a record of every child that has to be semi-adopted. This means if you have no choice but to give your child away, you must register your child, and the adopter must officially get approval from the government so that these children can have an agency to report abuse and other issues too.
Fantastic
idea.
Bit
out of the box, but it might work if the government can somehow be trustworthy. Real one from Mile 12. All
That's a
right.
very,
Aki
very good
from
one.
Ikorodu says, greedy politicians are the problems of Nigeria. See how Sonolu and the army denied Lekki issues are contradicting themselves, giving fake news. Sonolu stopped pension of governors and deputies to redeem his image after Lekki issue. I don't know why people are applauding him for that. Their salaries are way too much. What of the money these same politicians steal? We must never negotiate with bad leadership. God bless Nigeria. Dan, what's your IG Twitter name? All right, it's Dan Power Touch. Dan Power Touch. That's my Twitter. And just search for Daniel Adaja. You should find me anywhere. But Dan Power Touch on Twitter and Instagram. All right. Israel Inogijo says it takes God mercy for a floating reed on the sea to get to the direction. The vice president is the reed on sea, the circle of people who wears white clothes. But honestly, they are like graves. The outside beautiful with designed tiles, but maggots and decaying bone filled the inside. So the government tells citizens with an attitude, what can you do? Thank God the citizens now know how powerful the office of the citizenry is. Now Vice President has realized it, but is this but that is a mirage. Only him among all these men. All right, that's Israel in Ogijo. Take this one. It says on education, taking of exams such as common should be made flexible. If some pupils did not come for the exam on Monday, they can come on Tuesday since it's the same syllabus. God bless Nigeria, Mr. Wali in Barua Baja. All right, let's keep those messages coming in on 07031756537. Otumba Dr. Muyiwa Oladele in Lagos says the current increase in petrol pump price is totally unacceptable. Nigerians are just coming out of the dreaded COVID-19 pandemic. Prices of food items and other necessary have gone up. This very unfair government insensitivity is going to put Nigerians into more sufferings. Why can't this regime make our refineries work after 5 years? For God's sake, if we refine locally, we will be able to manage the fuel pump price other than being exploited to moderate variations of prices according to global market forces of demand and supply. May God save us from this mismanagement. All right, Otumba Muyiwa Oladele. I think this is one more before we go. Okay, no, not one more. Okay, let me just take this one. This is from Anderson. It says, oh, it says, I'm enjoying the conversation. Thank you very much, Anderson. I appreciate you. I appreciate your message this morning. All right, we're going to go straight back into the dailies, but I think I'd like us to quickly take this one on the number of malnutrition children. A new start is out, which a lot of the conversation this morning have started around the kids. 2.5 million Nigerian children malnourished and stunted. This is coming in from the severe acute malnutrition. That's SAM. A lot of children, at 2.5 million Nigerian children under the age of 5, are suffering from severe acute malnutrition. The figure places Nigeria as a country with the second highest number of stunted children in the world. This is sad. The disclosure was made by Prince Clem Agba, Minister of State for Budget and National Planning, at the flag off of the 2020 National Nutrition Week in Abuja. The minister noted that despite concerted effort by the government in recent years, particularly in the area of child nutrition and breastfeeding, malnutrition, and other public health issues have remained a challenge. He stated this challenge must be addressed through the implementation of innovative policies and strategies that are appropriately funded, data driven, sustainable, and optimized in terms of transparency and accountability for the efforts to yield the desired result. In addition, government, he said, must also continue to work collaboratively across all levels of governance, hand in hand with the private sector and development partners in this regard. As much as I want to like holistically hold the federal government responsible for the high level of malnutrition, but I also need us to understand that that's why there are state governors in each of the 36 states of the country, including the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. It means that there is a responsibility that the governor owes his people. I was really not happy when I saw a particular headline on okay, it was good, and I had second thoughts about it, of Akeredolu setting up an 8-man committee on how they can increase the IGR of a state. Before the 2020 elections, February 2019 February elections, I kept saying it that any governor who is coming in who cannot double the IGR of their state shouldn't be governor in any way. You should be coming to your state and look for better ways to be able to provide for your state.
Dan, there are several issues to discuss here. First and foremost, the average Nigerian does not really recognize the office of the governor. They recognize, just that person who sits at the top of the executive in Abuja.
Okay.
That's the one office. It's something I remember some time ago, I don't know what happened. It was during Obasanjo's tenure, and people began to, take him out. And the man said, if their market gets burned, they will say Obasanjo. If, primary education, they will say federal government. People don't even know the different responsibilities, as shared among the three tiers of government. Even four, if you bring in the local government in addition. So the people don't know that. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand is the fact that, yes, the state governors are supposed to be the chief executives of the state, and they should be innovative. But the problem with Nigeria is that we really don't have sincere people who are going into government for the sake of governance, for the sake of actually serving the people, and doing something good with that office. So everybody goes there. Most people go there for their own selfish interest. They don't have any plan. We've said it over and over again in this place that, look, if you compare us, our nation, with other nations of the world that have gotten it right, before somebody aspires to any position in government, is a dream he's been holding for a long time. And it's something he's been working towards. He's been working towards it in terms of learning. He's been working towards it in terms of getting engaged with the communities. He's been working towards it in terms of, putting plans, looking at what are the problems, what are the solutions that, can be preferred. He's talked with professionals and tried to articulate a plan long before he gets in there. And so he gets in there, he hits the road running. But we have a situation whereby Nigeria, leaders get in there, and for the first 6 months, they are doing tour. They are doing tour of ministry. If it's the federal government, they are doing tour of states. They are doing nothing and wasting time. That's a problem on its own. But again, one thing that I also need to bring out is the fact that, we need a government of inclusion. There's something that we do in Nigeria. We look at the citizens as at one end and the government at another end. So it's them. Governance is them. Do you understand?
Yes.
And because of that, because we're not involved, they can do and undo as they like, and then we bear the brunt. So when you are talking about malnutrition, let's bring it back. Let's not look at it from the height, from the federal government, from the state government. Let's look at the communities themselves. Let's look at the grassroots. The community is where the people live. The community knows one child and knows that family and knows that one. What can we do at community level? In terms of banding together? Can we at community levels begin to look at, how do we get food in the first instance? Do we do cooperatives? Do we, in especially in the rural areas? You understand? Although I'm not sure there's so much problem of food in the rural areas as you have in the urban, but I don't know. So can we begin to look in-house? Can we begin to look at around us and see what can be done? And as the communities are striving to do something together, can the government now come in to give direction? Can the government come in to give assistance? Can the government, come in and say, look, to have a balanced diet, this and this and this are the kind of menu timetable that you can have. What is lacking? What can the government supply? What do you understand? And we band together as one community.
So from what exactly I pick up from what you say now is there is more for us to not look at the issue of malnutrition from a very large scope.
No.
We begin to pick it in the smallest unit as possible for us to achieve the desired result. All right, let's take a few messages because our time has been well spent this morning. Peter says, to rebuild the trust according to Oshiba, they should first and foremost tell us what is going on in Aso Rock. If they hide vital information from us, what kind of trust are they trying to rebuild? All right, this is from Tony says, how can there be malnutrition in a country where corruption fight is only in the airwaves and newspapers? All right, that's Tony's message this morning. Chooks from Ikeja says, as long as all the officials plundering are allowed to continue in the name of wages, pension, etc., all at all government, at all level of governance, so long shall we continue to lack every necessity of life. All right, that's Chooks in Ikeja. Let's see if we can take one more from the WhatsApp platform. All right, this is coming from Grandma Olainka says, my sister in the studio, you have said it all. Well done, sister. More wisdom from above. All right, that's from Grandma Olainka. All right, I think we have to wrap this conversation up right now. And I want to say thank you very much, Sumbo, for joining us. But what would be the take home for Nigerians with regards to, even in the midst of all of this, we still have a responsibility to be patriotic? What would be your words to Nigerians?
Well, I would say to every Nigerian, don't lose hope, don't get discouraged. As much as is within your power, contribute your quota. It's something that we all have to do together. Whatever you can, wherever you can make a change in your own little, conclave, in your own sphere of influence, please endeavor to make that change and let us, continue to have faith and continue to push.
Yes, let's pray that continue to have faith and continue to push. At 9 o'clock will be the news at 9, and after the news at 9, we're going to be having a conversation on. Today is actually the International Day for Remembrance of Road Accident Victims. And we're going to talk about the states of the roads in Lagos and also share our road accident experiences. And if you've lost someone to road accident, we'd also like you to share that story. Maybe you might just inspire somebody to do what is right when they find themselves on the road. Special thanks to the producer, Esther Alarebe. Good morning, everybody. See you guys at the other side of 9.
WFM 91.7.
Thank you, Dan.
Women. Using radio
Thank
as a
you
tool
very
for
much.
women development.
Now, I'm supposed to be going to a
The
morning.
abuse of women, girls, and children in any shape or form. WFM 91.7.
We're going to Omoli.
And I'm seeing 46 minutes.
Hey, Google Map.
I always Google before.